Many travelers dream of experiencing the beauty of Tanzania, from its stunning national parks to vibrant cultural sites. Yet the costs often seem overwhelming. But with Visit Tanzania for Less, exploring this East African gem on a budget is not only possible, but incredibly rewarding. Whether you're a solo backpacker, a volunteer, or just a budget-conscious traveler, we provide valuable insights and resources to make your journey unforgettable without breaking the bank. Book your trip now with just a $300 deposit and flexible monthly payments until your travel date. For more travel inspiration and tips, follow us on Instagram or visit us at visittanzaniaforless.com. Visit Tanzania for Less, your dream adventure within reach.
Good afternoon, Muskegon. It's that time. Yes, it's that time for Turning to your show for news, information, and more. Can you believe it's October, bro?
Wow, man. I know. First week of October, isn't that something?
First week, this October 4th, this beautiful sunny day. The show is brought to you by Bishop Custom Series and Entertainment. For all your needs, see the Bishop. And don't forget that Tanzania. That if you want a trip of a lifetime, make sure that you have a chance to look that out. Prices are reasonable, and they have packages for you as well. Remember, if you are driving, especially now with these shows, and if you're an independent or someone that's undecided, and you want to look at these candidates again, you can visit WVS 103.7 The Beat or M106, M106 Facebook sites. They are available to you. All of our interviews, YouTube, it's there. Look for Torn Into. We invite you to join the movement. As you know, November is election time. We take this opportunity to interview all the candidates. Remember, we don't come back. This is the opportunity for them to tell their story and why they are running. And with that said, my co-partner in Christ here,
My brother,
Pastor Melvin Burns II, as I call him, one of the twins, is here. What's the weather look like?
well, I guess you said earlier, beautiful October day. We're going to reach a high today of 69 degrees. Tomorrow, start a little chilly at 44 with a high of 73. Sunday expected to be a little windy, low 54, high of 69. Partly cloudy on Monday as we get back to work, low of 48, high of 61. Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday next week, sunny days. Tuesday will have a high of 62. Wednesday, a low 44, high of 64. And Thursday, low 43, high of 69 degrees.
All right. Let's jump in it. We make sure that we interview all candidates. We reach out to every candidate, every race. Needless to say, we can't get to all races, but we try. If you don't answer back, we give you the opportunity, but we try to give people equal opportunity. With that said, who do we have on today?
Well, today's is a candidate for the United States Senate for the state of Michigan. Would you join me in welcoming to our microphone today, candidate Doug Marsh?
How you doing, sir?
Hi, Gregory, Melvin. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, and you prefer Doug or Douglas?
Doug is fine.
Okay.
Doug, before we get into policies and stuff like that, why don't you tell our viewers and listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. So on the ballot, I'll be Douglas P. Marsh, and I was born in Traverse City and raised in nearby Williamsburg. I'm 40 years old. I live with my wife and daughter in West Branch, Michigan, where I work as a newspaper reporter and community journalist.
Okay.
I'm the Green Party's candidate for United States Senate in Michigan. And I guess anything else you'd like to know about me and my background?
No, that's good. So first question.
Okay. Doug, just for our listeners, would you give them a little background on the Green Party?
Background on the Green Party, sure. I guess in the United States, founded in the mid 1980s, it's a party with kind of four guiding principles: peace, ecology, social justice, and what's the fourth? Peace, ecology, social justice, and I think I'm blanking on the fourth.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot with
That's
that.
right. It'll come to mind.
Yeah.
Mid-interview, you'll say, and the fourth one is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Doug.
Oh, sorry. It's democracy. It's democracy. So
Yeah.
the democracy aspect is the Green Party is very grassroots. We don't have corporate donors, and we don't have political action committees, and we really don't have a lot of paid staff and things of that nature. It's all volunteer driven and internally democratic and grassroots in nature.
Okay. So
Right.
I was gonna say, Doug, so tell folks you're a reporter there. What made you get into the race?
Well, I got into the race because I took a look at the field of candidates, people who were running for the position, and I didn't see anybody who was just kind of a regular working stiff who's connected to day-to-day struggle of living and surviving in Michigan. It seems like Democrats and Republicans are, and the candidates that they put up for election are not interested in the same things that regular people are interested in, like Medicare for all and affordable housing. And I mean, ceasefire in Gaza, end to genocide. I didn't see any candidates who were representing those values. I don't really think that I'm special or different. I think that I'm really pretty average in the things that I want from government and to see represented in government. Medicare for all, affordable healthcare, and controls on rent and stuff to make housing affordable, and just sensible policies that are really popular, but that you're not going to get from Democrats or Republicans.
Mm-hmm.
How important is when most Americans are $400 away from a catastrophe for their life? How important is it that government understand that they work for us and not the other way?
Well, absolutely. I think it's vitally important that people have the opportunity, especially working people, have the opportunity to be secure in their lives and in the pursuit of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and that government's job is to ensure that runaway exploitation and injustice and just the loss of the American dream, is what we're witnessing all around us, and it seems like government is contributing to the problem more than working towards solutions.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that you are hearing and seeing while you're out there campaigning, the issues that people are concerned with?
Well, I have been meeting a lot of people who are really concerned about the ongoing genocide in Gaza. It's really concerning to all of us. It's hard to turn on the news every day and see the latest updates. And I also just basically, almost everybody I talk to can't afford to go to the doctor and is afraid that they'll go bankrupt. I know I personally have been dropped off of benefits plans every time that I've moved house, every time that I've changed job in the last few years. I get, or sometimes just system glitches in the state benefit system. I suddenly find myself without medical benefits. I find unaffordable medical bills for simple visits to a clinic. You know, if I have a cold that won't go away, or if my wife does, and we go to the doctor and we come out with bills for hundreds of dollars because it turned out that the benefits were dropped and we missed the notice in the mail, or, you know, it's absurd. And everybody I talk to is going through similar struggles with their health care, with their housing, and they're concerned about the runaway military spending. They're concerned about the water quality in our state being contaminated with PFAS, being potentially contaminated with oil pipelines and fracking. And yeah, I think these are all concerns and struggles that I find I share with everybody that I encounter on the campaign trail, but I don't see those concerns represented in very many political campaigns at the Senate level or really down ballot, unless you're talking about, you know, fellow Green Party members and other kind of more third party and out of the box thinking and approaches to policy.
Okay. Doug, with some of the constraints or decisions, I should say, the Green Party's made in terms of fundraising and taking money from donors, how do you get your message out there?
Well, I thank you for helping me get our message out there. And, you know, we're trying to use all the tools of the 21st century, the internet, social media, and of course, part of the Green Party's platform for a long time has been ranked choice voting. And we have been, the party has been part of policy and referenda initiatives that have made that a reality in a few places across the country. In Michigan, we've had it popular referenda passed in Ferndale and Ann Arbor, and Green Party was involved in those efforts. And we also, part of the Green Party platform, that we advocate for publicly funded elections. Between ranked choice voting and publicly funded elections, if we can get popular movements and popular referenda all across the state and all across the country, that can really improve and help clean up some of the corruption and, you know, in our elections, where the amount of money spent is the greatest predictor of who wins, and what the moneyed class want is also the predictor of what policies pass through the House and the Senate.
What do you say to people? And you get, I'm sure you get this all the time. What do you say to individuals who just look at two parties and say, well, what was Democrat and the Independent and Republican, but a vote for the Green Party is a vote thrown away? What do you say to those individuals?
I say that there's two major parties, especially say at the level of Senate, that are both signing off on genocide. And so, like, you have to draw a line somewhere. Mm-hmm. And, you know, you can do all this 4D chess and mental gymnastics to convince oneself that these are the only choices. But when you go into the ballot booth on November 5th, you're not going to see only two choices on your ballot, really, anywhere in this country. You won't. You'll see Butch and Jill. You'll see Jill Stein and Butch Ware for president, and some libertarians, and some, I think in Michigan, you'll see U.S. Natural Law Party and a couple others. You'll go down to the next slot for Senate, and you'll see a Democrat and a Republican and me and a libertarian. And again, U.S. Taxpayer Party, Natural Law Party, those. So the choices are there. And what I really encourage people is, if you don't believe in using your voice in the ballot box, well, gosh darn it, use your voice in the streets and join the Green Party, join our political movement, and run for office or support someone who is, and really get connected and engaged with what we're doing. If you feel, I'm not telling anybody how to vote, and I'm not asking anybody for money. I'm asking people to really get engaged and run for office and join a movement that we can all believe in and feel good about.
I'm hearing something from you, and I want your opinion on it. You're saying you get up, stand for something, and get involved in something, and not just sit back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most important thing I want to say with my campaign is please join the Green Party. Join a local community effort to get involved in politics, get involved in your township board of trustees, your planning commissions, your city councils, our state legislature. There's lots of opportunities. I had a call come in. There's lots of opportunities to get engaged with politics, and the Green Party in Michigan and almost everywhere is a really open and welcoming organization with really common sense values. If you go to gp.org and gp.org/platform, you can see everything about the Green Party. I should say my website, if people can't see it, is www.electmarsh.us. And if you're listening or watching in Michigan, you can go to www.migreenparty.org. And these are all kind of places where you can get in contact with Green Party members and people who are running for office and helping out with campaigns and helping run the party. And it's all part of like a really democratic grassroots peace and social justice driven organization and movement for a new kind of politics.
Okay. So I think Greg can answer this. As you get around campaigning to people, what are the issues that people are telling you are most important?
Yeah, like I said, I think it's really going to the doctor and being able to afford medications. I just bought 12 eggs for $4. I think they were the cheapest on offer at the market. And every month I pay the landlord almost 50% of my take-home pay, right? And my employer offered health care insurance. My employer offered health insurance. The cheapest plan there is roughly like 10% of my take-home pay. So you start looking at all these middlemen in our lives and parasitic systems. These are the things that we're all dealing with. And I mean, what I'd like to have is, more education investments and more public transport investments. Used cars are getting more expensive because manufacturers aren't making new cars except for luxury and high-end markets. So it's driving up the price of used cars. I just finished paying off a 2010 Subaru Outback. It took me 5 years to pay it off. I don't know what other candidates in this race are going to tell you that they just spent 5 years paying off a 15-year-old car and give half of their money to the landlord every month. Like, I don't know if the other Senate candidates or the other people running for office are living these lives that we're living out here, or if they're different kind of people leading different kind of lives with different kind of ideas going into the government.
Doug, how important is this statement to you? This is one thing that I've been thinking about, and I want to get your opinion. Is that the more that we are divided, the less that we're concentrating on the issues. And it seems like parties would rather have us divided than we as individuals look at what's really happening in Washington or Michigan, and the real issues are being abandoned.
So what's your question?
My question is your thoughts on that.
My thoughts on Washington abandoning the real issues and putting on a big spectacle.
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
more or less it?
like if we as quote quote the middle class, if that's a such thing, would start looking at real issues and not being divided by, say, party D or R, and look at real issues and come together and say, like you were talking about prescription drugs or paying off a car. Why is that? And why is Washington or Lansing not getting the job done?
Well, I think, you know, you don't hear politicians from the Democrat or Republican Party, politicians that are running for office on those tickets, you don't hear them talking about these same issues in the same, at least not in the same way that I'm talking about them. And I think that's because to rise within those parties, you've got to be expert at fundraising and in dealing in the corporate system and the lobbying system, whereby the regulators and the the business C-suite kind of people work in that revolving door kind of system, and the people who work in the military industrial complex and for your Raytheon and your intelligence, your Palantirs and all these companies. You get these kind of people, and they're completely unconnected to these struggles, and they don't have any skin in this game, and they don't have anything to say about it, and they've sold out those interests. They're not personally concerned by them, and they've sold out those interests to donors, and so they don't have those issues to really talk about because they agree on those issues. They're not going to help us out, and they're actively opposed to us making gains in those areas. So they put on a huge spectacle and play these games of now you'll not hear me talk about abortion because I think it's one of those divisive issues that's mainly used to divide people. And I do have a policy position on it, but it's not something that I campaign on or ask people to cast a vote on, because I think it's used for fear and division more than it's a genuine issue that the politicians and the people in government want to fix and make a stable situation. They want it to always be unstable and to always be swinging one side or the other, to use it as a political football. It's a divisive political football more than it's a policy issue. It's the same thing with and it's the way that they talk about it. So they say, oh, we have to protect this cherished right. Well, if abortion isn't legal, rich people can still obtain it and poor people can't. Those are the facts. Rich people can always get abortions. If you make it illegal, it's only affecting poor people. Period. That's end of debate for me. So, and it's always to me that's a between a pregnant person and their physician, and it's not an issue of law. Similarly with the border, that's another big wedge issue that I don't believe that Democrats or Republicans talk about in a genuine and straightforward way. The answer to the border crisis is to stop creating refugees with our foreign policy, number one, and to have real consequences or accountability for United States companies that hire and exploit undocumented workers.
Mhm.
If a company were instantly dissolved as soon as it was discovered to be employing and exploiting undocumented workers, would we have the same immigration crisis? Would it be the same crisis that we see today? If we did a major reform of our foreign policy and a major reform of holding domestic companies accountable for these practices, would we have the crisis that we see today? I don't think so. And I don't think that Democrats or Republicans are serious about pursuing either of those avenues of possible solution.
Okay. Doug, let me, and hope you don't find it, this is not meant to be condescending, but let's say you find yourself elected to the Senate, and assuming the majority of Senate won't be Green Party members, how do you become an effective member in a group that you'll be a very small minority in?
Yeah, well, I forget where I saw or whose analysis I saw talking about the way that Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema seem to wield enormous power from places of specific leverage.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there are those opportunities to really take an outsider stand when there's big questions on the table. I also would really look for opportunities to build coalition with people who are taking stands of integrity. If there are people in the Senate who are willing to stand up against genocide and Israeli apartheid against Palestinians, I think there are a few in the Senate willing to take those stands, and I would look to build coalition with them. I know that in Michigan, Line 5 and the Line 5 pipeline, an oil pipeline that goes through the Straits of Mackinac underneath the water, a 70-year-old pipeline with a 50-year manufacturing operating lifespan, sitting on the bottom, subject to anchor strike. The company Enbridge wants to drill a tunnel underneath the Straits of Mackinac and then continue pumping oil through that tunnel. That's their plan. Governor Whitmer has been attempting to stop them, but has been unable to, as it's an international pipeline. And so I think that there's another opportunity where the Green Party and Green Party ideals could carry into the Senate and find, allies in issues, if not in fellow party members in the same governing body.
Listen, it's 2:28 and time is unfortunately up. But Doug, two questions. Why should I vote for you? And the other question, if I want to write that big check or volunteer for you, how do we get in touch with you?
Yeah, vote for me because I'm pro-worker, anti-genocide, and I'm the #1 choice for those values on your ballot for the United States Senate race in Michigan. You can find out more about my campaign and donate if you like at www.electmarsh.us. Join the Michigan Green Party at migreenparty.org. And if you're not in Michigan, check us out at gp.org.
Douglas P. Marsh, thank you so much for being on the show. Good luck, Godspeed, and we'll talk to you later.
Good luck, Douglas.
Melvin, Gregory, thanks so much. Have a good one.
All right, take care.
Yeah.
That was Doug Marsh of the Green Party running for the U.S. House.
U.S. Senate.
U.S. Senate.
Yes.
So a big aspiration, and we want to thank him. Again, we reach out to all parties, and we want to hear their views and to see what they have to offer. So, for instance, there was a debate on a local channel that didn't even invite the Green Party or Independent Party, Libertarian Party or whatever. It was just Democrat and Republican. So, with that said, it's the bottom of the hour. We have another candidate coming up. You are listening or watching Torn in Two on 103.7 The Beat or M106. We'll see you in a second.
Many travelers dream of experiencing the beauty of Tanzania, from its stunning national parks to vibrant cultural sites, yet the costs often seem overwhelming. But with Visit Tanzania for Less, exploring this East African gem on a budget is not only possible, but incredibly rewarding. Whether you're a solo backpacker, a volunteer, or just a budget-conscious traveler, we provide valuable insights and resources to make your journey unforgettable without breaking the bank. Book your trip now with just a $300 deposit and flexible monthly payments until your travel date. For more travel inspiration and tips, follow us on Instagram or visit us at visittanzaniaforless.com. Visit Tanzania for Less, your dream adventure within reach.
What's something people don't know about community impact? A simple donation could transport kids to the heart of Ghana, opening a world of possibilities. Since 2017, thanks to 103.7, The Beat and community supporters like you, dozens of kids have embarked on a journey of a lifetime to Ghana. This isn't just any trip. It's filled with learning, adventure, and joy. These kids are diving into a culture rich in tradition. They're learning about the world beyond their textbooks. This program educates and connects communities, building bridges. Your support can light up a child's life. It's an exploration of potential and a celebration of new friendships. Donate today at kidsfreetriptoafrica.com. Every donation matters. Please donate today at kidsfreetriptoafrica.com. Thank you.
And welcome back to Touring the 2 on 103.7 The Beat and M106. Catch us on all our media sites. Don't forget these shows repeat themselves on those sites so you can see them. Don't forget about the emoji app. That is a popular app that I'm sure that you'll love, representing small stations. You can catch videos of every kind of music genre that you want to hear. I want to ask you to support Kids for Africa. Wouldn't that be amazing if those kids, and we'll be able to take more on a freaking braces. And with that said, we have another candidate.
Yes, of a local candidate. Today we have Miss Stephanie Barrett, who is the candidate for the Muskegon County Water Resources Commissioner. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So we got to start. Tell Muskegon a little bit, and the world actually. Tell a little bit about Stephanie.
So I am a mother of 2 adult sons. I am a widow. My husband passed away in 2020 from cancer. I graduated from Oak Ridge High School. I've lived in 4 townships, 2 cities, and 1 village in Muskegon County. So when people ask me where I'm from, I say I'm from Muskegon.
All right.
Okay.
And then I'll boil down to, where I live. But, I've lived in Muskegon Township, Eggleston Township, Dalton Township, Fruitland Township. I've lived in the village of Lakewood Club. I've lived in the city of Muskegon, and I've lived in the city of Muskegon Heights. So
So you've been out kind of all over.
Yeah.
I've been all over.
The
I am a child of
whole
Muskegon.
county tour, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your connection and why you want to run for this office.
So I've been in government for over 20 years. I started in Dalton Township. I was their zoning administrator. I was their deputy supervisor as well for a couple of years when the supervisor fell ill. I stepped down from that when he was able to come back to work. And then I was their public works clerk for 3 years, still doing zoning. But because when I was there, I helped bring water and sewer to different areas of the township. And I was the only one that, knew all the engineers, knew the attorneys, knew the contractors, the insurance companies, knew where all the leads were to help people, get tapped in. And then opening came up in the drain commissioner's office, because that's what it was called at that time. And I'm like, well, that sounds interesting. 'Cause I love to learn new things. And I knew the drain commissioner at that time. It was Mr. Dave Fisher.
Yeah.
And so I applied, and he was so excited for me to come. When I first hired on, anybody who called, he was like, do you know who answered the phone? That's Stephanie. He was so excited for me to be there. And so I went in to help, get the records in order and get the history in order. And for me, I loved it because, the records were a mess, the financials were a mess, but I actually started going through the drain history. And that's, it's so important. People don't really know what that office is or what it does. And there was a drain commissioner before Michigan even became a state.
Wow.
Because, we were a swampy bog. And for people to come here, to live here, to move here, to do any enterprise, they had to drain the land so that they could farm, so that they could build, so that they could log. So they just started cutting all these ditches in everywhere. And once it left their land, they didn't care where it went. Well, the people downstream were pretty unhappy with where it went. So the complaints at that time went to the territorial governor. Most of the time, he was in D.C. or on the other side of the state, and he'd have to get in his horse and buggy and come.
Wow.
And try to settle it. So they actually created the position of drain commissioner throughout the whole state of Michigan, everywhere, to take care of this. And it is supposed to be to the benefit of the small person, not like the big property owner, not the person on top of the hill. This is supposed to be for the people who are directly impacted. So it takes a smaller number of people to petition for stuff to be done.
Your opponent last week said that, which was refreshing. He paid your compliment, said that either way, that you would do a good job, he would do a good job. You just have a couple ideas differently how to do those jobs. What are some of the things that you think need to be done?
So the problem is most of the drains, and just so people know, a drain isn't just a tube in the ground. It's not pipe in the ground. It's ditches along the side of the road. If you're on Apple Avenue from like Sheridan out to Carr Road, the ditch on the north side of the road, that's a county drain. But there are big pipes in the ground underneath Henry Street. And that they're everywhere, but sometimes it just looks like a creek or a stream. So a lot of that was neglected for quite a while. So actually, while I was in the office with Brenda, a lot of that work has already been done. For me, it's just trying to make sure that nothing is being neglected, just that, the general maintenance is being done if it needs to be done. Nothing's being overblown. Nothing's being ignored. It's really important. And then the education, people don't know, they don't understand. When we first started doing the assessments, I said, I want to go to every community that we're assessing to explain to them what this is, why it is. And I would make appointments with each community. And I'm like, I am here. Tell me your questions, your concerns, your comments, any complaints. Tell me, I'm here. And don't take the heat for the assessments, because it's our assessment, not yours. I would leave my business card with my direct line. I'm like, have people call me. And I had a lot of people call me, but it was okay, because I would explain to them, I'm like, you might not like the answer at the end of the day, but you're going to know why.
Okay.
And to me, that's so important is, if you don't understand something, you're going to get frustrated. You're going to get upset. You're going to go complain. And we had some meetings where people came in and they were really upset. I had one gentleman, he was adorable. I'm sorry, but he was adorable. He came in, he was probably 80 years old. And he was still working, and he took the day off work to come in because all these people were telling him that his assessment was going to be huge. It was going to be thousands of dollars. He came in, his assessment was less than $5.
Wow.
Can you explain to people, city folk like Greg and I, explain the drain commission, that role when you talk about assessing, what that means?
Okay, so it's really important actually. So there is not funding in any budget for work on county drains.
Okay.
There is no federal money. There is no state money. There is no county money. The only thing that the county pays for is the salary of the Water Resources Commissioner, the salary of the deputy, the office space, and office supplies. That's it. Any work that is done on a county drain has to be paid for by the people within the assessment district.
Okay.
So the assessment district, that's determined by, so if there's a heavy rain or if there's a big snow melt, where does that water go?
Mhm.
If the water makes its way to a said drain, they're in the district. They used to just square it off by people's property. So if they
Mhm.
own 40 acres, they just square it off by that.
Yeah.
We have the technology and the science now where it's amoeba shapes, it's
Mhm.
because we can actually look and see, oh, well, there's a little hill here. There's, a
Mhm.
little dip here. So the water doesn't go here. The water doesn't go there.
Mhm.
So then, and it's up to the drain commissioner how you want to spread the assessments.
Well, the candidate running against you stated that a lot of the work is contracted out.
Correct.
Does it make sense that your department, considering how much land that you have to cover, have workers that are already in place to do the work, considering how old the infrastructure is?
So we tried that when Mr. Fisher was there. We actually, so we had when I first started, we were bringing in jail crew to help with stuff.
Mhm.
The deputy went out with them, and they would do work. But the thing is, when you bring jail crew, they have to volunteer.
Mhm.
You're out in the middle of nowhere. If they have to go to the bathroom, you have to bring them to a government facility. You can't take them to Wesco to use the bathroom. You can't take them to a little general store. You have to bring them to a facility or back to the jail.
Mhm.
If they get hot, they get tired, they want to go, you got to bring the whole crew back.
Yeah.
So then we hired some individuals to come in and do the work that had worked, for different companies that did that type of work. And it just didn't work out. We tried. I mean, we had equipment, we had, chainsaws, we had all kinds of stuff for them to go out and do the work, and it just didn't work either. So we tried that. So, and like I said, there is no funding for it. So anything we do, no matter how we do it, we have to contract out. Because I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be out in a drain with a chainsaw. I am not skilled in that. So in other areas of the state, they actually, I mean, even Ottawa County, they have a huge crew of people that work for them, but they have the money and the infrastructure, and there's different municipalities where they're like, we will just pay for it. We won't pass it on to our employees, but they've been doing the work since day one. They didn't have neglect. All their drains have been worked on consistently for years. So they already have, funding.
Well, with that said, it's not if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. That heavy rain, trees down, whatever. There's going to be problems with an infrastructure over 100 years old. Why wouldn't a county? I know that you're not a county commissioner, but why wouldn't they invest in having a team of workers? Maybe.
Because they have to look at their budget. Even though, the county has a set budget, and they have to look at, where they can spend it. There are certain, they have grants for certain departments and everything else, but if it comes down to it, where is it going to come from? And that's when we did have that crew, we had to create a budget where, we showed where assessments would pay for those workers. And it did. But we still had to assess, property owners and everything else, but it didn't work out for us with the individuals that we hired.
Okay. So as you're out campaigning, what are the things you're hearing from people as you get out there and knock on doors and talk to folks?
Well, the first is, what's a water resources commissioner? So the title was changed. In some parts of the state, it is still called the drain commissioner's office. But there is a clause in the drain code that says that if you do more than just maintain and clean out the drainage ditches, that you can go to the county board and ask them to change your title.
Okay.
You have to you have to be on like lake boards, have dam structures or something like that. And that was approved by the county board back late 2020, early 2021. So that's one of the first questions is, what is the job? The second is, does it affect me? How does it affect me? And I'm like, well, do you ever drive down Henry Street? There's at least 6 drains along Henry Street. Do you ever drive out Apple Avenue? There's drains along Apple Avenue. Pretty much anywhere in the county you go, except Blue Lake Township. I know they don't have any, but there are drains all over the place. And so sometimes you'll just look and see a ditch. So a road commission ditch is there to get the water away from the road. It's only to move it away from the road. County drains are there to get it off the property. It's not about the road, it's about the properties. So that's what we get petitions from property owners. to come out and do work on the drains. If something's going to cost more than $5,000 a mile, we have to have a petition for that.
Okay.
And that, so in 2020, we had torrential rains that year, and we received more than 6 petitions that year to do work, and some were for brand new drains.
Mhm.
And that because the water needs to go somewhere, and water finds the easiest path, and sometimes it's people's basements
Mhm.
because it's at that level. And so, that's, part of what we talk about, what the process is, because they'll say, why does it cost this much? Well, we have to hire, engineering firms that specialize in this. We have to hire contractors that specialize in this. It's just like you wouldn't go to a dentist if you needed surgery on your hand.
Mhm.
It's totally different. These engineers actually go to school specifically to learn the drainage, for drainage. So, and that's, part of the cost. So, and we, try to work with the road commission as much as we can to try to keep the cost down. And I've already talked with, the road commission board, and, I'm like, if I get elected, I definitely want to, try to work with you guys. The relationship's not been great the past few years, and I'd love to work on that with them.
What are, and we asked this of your opponent, what are some of the differences between you and him?
I've served in the office. I actually know the job. I could step in day one and start doing the job. I understand the projects. I know the engineers that are working on these projects, the ones that are currently going on, the ones that are already being looked at. I know many people in the different municipalities. I have support from both parties. I can go in there and I can go out and meet with people. I'm very people oriented.
Mhm.
I'm a very friendly, open person. So, I can just go in and start. And then I also hold state certifications. I hold one in stormwater in construction, stormwater management and oversight. And I also have one for sedimentation control, soil erosion, for plan review and design. Those are very important to have because Michigan is one of the only states in the nation that is allowed to do this work. And by having those certifications from the state, that helps to move forward because I can look at a plan and say, no, we need to do this to protect this drain. We need to do this to protect, the flooding from these people's houses. I've done this for 9.5 years. So I have experience in the office, and I understand, the processes, the laws, the people involved, and I have the context.
A lot of your work is in the township, but again, you're on the ballot countywide. So for folks who live in the cities and urban areas, talk about your roles as the Water Resources Commissioner and how that affects folks who live in the urban areas.
So that's where I was saying, so like Henry Street, there are 6 drains at least, that run through Henry Street. Part of Ryerson Creek, that is the county drain. Ruddiman Creek, that is county drains that run to that. Actually, from Henry Street, we have several drains that run into Mona Lake.
Mention Little Black Creek.
Absolutely. And, I grew up swimming in Mona Lake. We didn't know then about the heavy metals that were coming from the plating companies on Getty Street. We didn't know about the blue-green algae. We didn't know that stuff. We know it now. When we're doing work on the drains, we can actually do water quality work to try to keep that stuff from happening. That's one of the projects that's out there right now is a project for the Getty and Airline intersection. The property owners over there, it's totally flat. They had no drainage. When there's a big rain event, big snow event, they get totally flooded in their houses. So they petitioned the Water Resources Commissioner's office to create a drain. So far as I'm aware, that will actually go under Getty Street and go into the existing, it's called O.H. Scott Waters Drain. And that goes into Mona Lake. But as it goes through the old celery flats. There's a lot of nutrients left in that soil that's really not good for the lake. And that's my understanding is that is part of that drain process is to clean that up.
Okay.
Get it out of the lake, get it out of the water. The thing is, we have all these, different like weeds, basically, stuff that is growing, from lake bottoms, which to a point is good. It helps, with the fish and everything. And it absorbs some of those contaminants. But when it dies, it releases it back in. When it's mowed down, it releases it back in. That's part of that project is help get that out of there. So it's not a recurring cycle.
People, when it comes down to your particular office, wouldn't say it's the sexy office, but it's the one that is really needed.
Yeah.
Really needed.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you're hearing from your constituents when you're out there?
There's a lot of concern to make sure that, we're looking at pollutants now. Most people don't know that one of the biggest pollutants in waterways is soil.
Mhm.
Because it's getting flushed off the fields. If they're, people are taking down all those trees, they're putting in all these subdivisions, they're putting in grass, but the water is getting washed in. So that's part of what we do, and it's not expensive. We've got complaints. Oh, you're putting rocks in the stream bed. We're actually creating a catchment basin where when the water hits it, it spins the water in that spot, and it makes the soil drop out, and it also aerates the water, which is better for water quality as it goes down. And this is just putting some rocks in. But you have to put them in a specific way, at a specific height, specific pattern. We got complaints that we were planting pretty flowers along the banks. Well, I mean, we could throw some grass seed down. We could throw, a standard mix, and it's 6-8 inches maybe root system. What we're putting down has 3 to 6 foot root system.
Wow.
It is protecting those banks, so we don't have to come back next year and cut those banks again.
Okay.
We're not disturbing it again. We're not putting more sand in by accident. We're not doing any of that. We're actually stabilizing those banks, and we're putting in they call them choir logs, coconut logs. That also helps protect everything from running down. It stabilizes it so it stays where it's supposed to, and once it stabilizes, if you don't touch it, it's going to stay that way for quite a while. And it's important, and those are really inexpensive things to do, but it's a lot of people just say, oh, we'll just throw down some grass seed.
What are the biggest challenges that will face the next Water Resources Commission?
So there is a current petition that was approved. It actually went out to bid, and when the costs came back, they were very high. So people have filed and this is just from what I've been told. I'm not super involved in it because I'm not in the position. One of the lawsuits is that the process wasn't done properly. The second one is that they don't agree with the assessments. So that's part of it's actually, there's a really long process when you do it. And people say, well, I didn't have a say in this. When there's a petition, the first thing that the Water Resources Commissioner does is looks to verify that there's enough signatures for whatever the petition is for. And that is actually looking at the deeds from the Register of Deeds office. If you rent a home, your signature doesn't count. If you have a land contract, but it's not registered through the Register of Deeds, doesn't count. You have to be a registered landowner. If you're married to somebody and your name's on it, your name doesn't count. So you make sure those are on there.
Is it one per?
Nope.
One each person if they're a landowner, or
correct?
Okay.
So then once you set that, then you actually have an engineer go out and just do basically a look-see is what we call it. They just go out and they look at the conditions out there and they provide a report, and we set up what's called a board of determination. This is a board of 3 members that own land in the county, but not the affected area. So say that we had a petition from City of Muskegon. They couldn't live in the City of Muskegon. They can't own property that's in the district.
Oh, okay.
And so we set up this board of determination, and as the Water Resources Commissioner, deputy staff, you're not supposed to have a preference if it goes forward or not. You're supposed to be neutral. We try to stay neutral. So these 3 people will listen. We hold a hearing. We send notices to everybody in the district, anybody who owns land in the district. And we it's legal requirements. It's put in the newspaper a certain number of times. All these notices go out. So then you hold this board of determination. And that's when property owners and people who are affected have the right to come in and speak either for or against.
Okay.
And this 3-member board decides at the end of the meeting in front of everybody. They have open discussion. There is no closed session. They don't step off. It's done right there in front of everybody. They make a decision. Is there a problem? That's basically what they're determining. Is there a problem? If the answer is yes, Water Resources Commissioner, move forward. If the answer is no, stop. Nothing can be done again for another year unless there's an emergency situation.
Now, question. This is a question that we asked their opponent. In the past, last several years, there was divisiveness on the county commission. Would you ever be able to work with the commission as a whole to get things done, regardless of what they have behind their name, DIR?
Oh, absolutely. And I've told people the only time I've ever asked anybody what their political affiliation is when I've worked an election and the primary ballot was so big and you can only vote one way or the other. And I had to ask people, what ballot do I give you? Do I give you a Democratic ballot? Do I give you a Republican ballot?
Mhm.
Otherwise, your political party is your political party.
Mhm. What about going to the commission for for grants and all that kind of stuff and working with them?
Oh, absolutely. I'm endorsed by several of the county commissioners, and I've known them for years. I worked in the office for 9.5 years, and I would have absolutely no problem working with any of them.
Okay. You mentioned sorry about limited resources. Are there other ways to get funding other than the assessments?
So grants are one thing, and it's really hard to get grants because we would apply for grants and they would say, but you have the ability to assess. So you don't need a grant. Dallas Goldberg, he's the current deputy. He's been able to get a couple grants since he's been there, but he was the executive director of the conservation district. So he knew of other grants that, might be available. And so he was able to get a couple of grants for that office, which are huge. One was for funding for the study for Mona Lake. So no, we try to look for those things. We were actually able to get some a few years ago. They were called SAW grants. It's asset management. We were able to get those. So with doing that, we actually had engineers go out and look at the county drains and what they looked like at that time and actually survey them. We were able to do that and, cover the majority of the costs. Whatever was left, we had to assess to the districts, but that was so huge that we were able to do that.
Okay, it's 2:57. Just that quick. I'm sitting at home, and then we ask everybody this question: why should I get off the couch and vote for you?
First and foremost, please, everybody, vote regardless of how you vote. Please vote. It is so important. Vote for me. You're voting for experience. You're voting for a person who I love people. I'm sorry, but I do. I get hugs all the time. I love people. And I want to inform people, what the office does, what it can do, how we can help, if we can't help, why we can't help. I always want that understanding out there. I'm not going to help you. I can't help you. Come here. Let me see what I can do for you.
Okay. If I say I'm one of those individuals that have one of those big checks and I want to write to you or volunteer on your campaign, how can I do that?
Committee to elect Stephanie Barrett, 2077 Lakewood Road, Whitehall, Michigan, 49461. Also Facebook, Stephanie Barrett for Water Resources Commissioner.
All right. Stephanie, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much for
Thank you,
having
Stephanie. It's nice
me.
meeting
I've
you.
enjoyed it.
And good
Thank
luck
you.
to you.
Thank you. So listen, that was Stephanie, and that position that she's running for.
Water Resources Commissioner.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot to say. Listen, people, we are running out of time for this election.
Yes, we are.
And there's still a lot of voters out there that have not made a decision. And absentee ballots have gone out. I heard that Muskegon, just the city of Muskegon alone, over 5,000 absentee ballots have gone out. There is absolutely no excuse for you to vote, especially when you can register to vote the day of. This is an election that is so important that you can't stay home. You can't afford to stay home. I was talking to a couple of guys, and they were not going to vote. And, sometimes you can't talk to people. So with that said, it's almost time for the end of the show. Melvin, you gonna close the house?
For folks who can't see me, I'm wearing an African shirt. My brother is getting married to a lady from Kenya. I was thinking about weddings, and one of the wonderful things is just bringing families together.
Right.
And my brother next to me always says, "Go out and sow a seed." You have a chance just to affect people's lives in very little ways and small ways we don't think about. Being polite, saying thank you, shaking people's hands, giving them a compliment. Take advantage of the tremendous gift you have of just making somebody's day this weekend.
All right. That's it. We'll see you next week on Torrington 2 as we're covering this political season. Remember, we're looking for a name of the show. You can either call 231-727-5007, ask for Lady J, or 231-722-8338. Take care. God bless. We'll see you next week on Torrent Into.